Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Low-Code Campfire, number 28. It's just the week before Thanksgiving, and we've just had a release of version 117. So I'll run through our standard hello, and then we'll get a chance to say hello and introduce yourself if you're new to the group. Low-Code Campfire is a thing we do every Friday at 10 a.m. Central Time. This is an all skill levels kind of event, and it's an opportunity to just get together, share techniques, challenges, experiences, and ask your questions. We record all the past episodes, so we've got 27 hours of great low-code programming and discussion going on there on our YouTube channel. We have a somewhat flexible agenda. This is a meeting format, so we just say hi, and then along the course of the hour, we get your questions. We talk about the things that have been contributed to the community contribution Campfire website. We talk about what's going on in the community in the beta program, oftentimes product discussions, anything that you've submitted in advance, and open mic. Main guideline is to mute if you've got noise going on behind you, and this has been a very courteous group, but extend courtesy to your fellow Campfire members. We got 3 different questions submitted in advance on our questions and topics and feedback form, so that link here on your screen plus the email that we send to you every week. So with that, anybody want to come off mute, say good morning? And I forgot, as your host, sometimes if it gets too quiet, I start to sing. That's the thread I continually use. So somebody say hello.
Hello.
Good morning, Dale.
Morning.
Morning, Albert.
Hey, good morning, Radu.
Radu, it's good to see you. You always carry the discussion, and I don't know, you've been to Campfire a couple of times, but sure appreciate it when you show up.
No worries.
Okay, I'm going to go right on. Oh, let's see. I'm going to hit a programming note. We have no Campfire next Friday. This is a holiday in the United States, Thanksgiving, and so we'll be taking off next Friday. And we've got a couple of cancellations scheduled, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, but I'll make sure that you know about those as we get closer to that. But those are Fridays late in December. And with that, we'll go to first call. What's on your mind? Any questions not yet submitted? Any troubles, any areas that you're having issues? Any comments? Anybody's downloaded 117 and installed it? I say downloaded. It's one-click installed, but any experiences you'd like to talk about? Has anybody?
I have installed it. This is just a regular DNN Sharp module, but and I haven't had any issues with it, Dale, so far. I installed the search boost, the action form, the action grid, my tokens, excuse me, and one other, let's see, my tokens and the scheduler thing, but no issues with it.
Good. We've done a lot
smoothly.
Good deal. We've been investing a lot into testing and of course the beta program. So glad to hear that we don't have any issues yet. So nobody with first call. Somebody wants to get in front of the line.
Regarding the upgrade, nothing. The systems that I'm working on and the upgraded systems that I manage, basically everything is working fine. So I think it's one of the most stable versions that we had until now.
Good deal.
Yeah.
All right, then with that, I will go on to if I see Bogdan has joined us, and if you are ready, sir, we could talk about anything that you want to with version 117 And you had given me the heads up, you might want to talk about getting some feedback from this community.
Yes, hello everyone. Yes, I'm glad to see that 117 got out. I think you've already got the newsletter as well, so maybe you saw that we also ramped up our newsletter capabilities a bit as well. So far, just a couple of minor issues. So really appreciate everyone in the beta program for getting involved. That was a good impact. So far, we only have, I think, 2 items left from the beta list. One is regarding a weird licensing issue for scheduler that Mark reported. And I think the other one, it's just some UI glitch that Jim reported with the scheduler. Not when you filter the scheduler history, it doesn't remove the dates, so you have a long list of empty dates. So besides those 2, which I think, I mean, the scheduler issue, the licensing issue, we'll see if it's something bigger or it's just a particular case. But other than that, there's nothing lacking yet. There's also a security fix that we just published for Action Grid. It will be published as a hotfix. So I'm not sure if it's already published. If not, in the coming days, it will be available as a hotfix. I recommend getting that as well. It's a security fix for preventing JavaScript injection in the page. So I suggest you get that. Cool. Besides this, so if I can maybe take a bit your screen sharing, Dale.
Sure.
Besides this, we just met today to discuss internally the next iteration of our dashboards. So then, let me share my screen too. So then I was wondering if any of you got to use them more extensively, and what's your feedback so far, or what's the feedback why you are not using them? Our dashboard, just the KPI tiles for now feature.
I guess we should start with anybody using this feature.
Yeah,
I'm using it. I used it to create a report page on the Academy to basically follow some of the numbers. I don't know. It's working. I think it kind of got a little bit. How can I say? It was hard to. It kind of got a little bit hard to track at some point. I think the templating, the way you template some of the KPI tiles at the moment, I think can be a little bit improved. It was a little bit slow, but the rest should be fine. A thing that I felt like it was lacking is copying an existing tile. The majority of the time, I was just looking to have a small alteration to take a KPI tile, and I just had to add it a new one, choose the color, choose the icon, choose the drop downs, while I only wanted to change something in one parameter, and that's all. The naming in one parameter.
Yeah.
That's my feedback from using those. But yeah.
And I guess I don't know if you said, but I want to make sure that it gets said. We're thinking about investing some time in going to the next level on dashboards, and so how you're using them or what you need is kind of the area of discussion.
Good morning. I joined the conversation a little late here, but I'm currently trying to configure the tiles to do a shipment monitoring as it goes through the process, and I'm running into the same problems that Radu just described of having to redo it all from scratch each time, not being able to copy it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's noted.
So from the earlier discussion, Bogdan, is there a couple things that you want to share about where we might go with this?
Yes. So I think I mean, there's some, of course, some UI improvements here and there, especially in the management side. But I think in terms of the capabilities, there's two directions we've explored. One is adding more data sources here, because right now this one can only be used with entities or with a database table. But the ability to use it with custom SQLs, tokens, so to have a token in here, or to have a workflow, to tie directly to a workflow that you can also send the parameters and then get a parameter out of the workflow and display it inside the tile. So the data sources was a big conversation. And then the other conversation was what other types of elements do we need to do next? So we kindly decided around the pie charts and the bar charts and line charts. That would be the next ones to add to this dashboard module.
Yes, that would be my suggestion as well. And only numbers. Yeah, for some use cases, a line graph or a bar chart will be very helpful, I guess.
Yep. So then one thing around that conversation was for us especially for the line charts and bar charts, to limit it only to time series. So on the X chart, on the X line, you always have a timeline, because then we can use the same thing that we have here. Except we need a property maybe to select instead of all time today, we just select monthly, yearly, quarterly, hourly. You select the interval on the line chart or on the bar charts. Feels like the time series are the most common type of charts that people put in a dashboard.
And then there was also some discussion about how we might do with actions.
Yes, that's a good point. Thanks, Dale. So basically, yes, these tiles now, they are not connected to anything. We did in some of our projects, I saw that we did actually JavaScript code. So when you click it, we open a grid that is filtered with items in that area or things like that. So actually, we are thinking that we'll add either an action section, somewhere in this configuration where you can configure what happens when you click the tile, or Dale came up with an even better suggestion to add buttons, to add buttons that maybe when you hover, or maybe they are always displayed. When you hover, maybe it turns gray and you have, let's say you configure 2 buttons, you have 2 buttons, you click the button and the list of actions executes similar like an action form. So then you could do everything basically. You want to maybe see some detail, some drill down report, you have a button for that. Or if you want to maybe do a spreadsheet, download this as a report, you can put a button to generate the Excel and download it, so you can start customizing it. And another topic that we discussed today was also about the let's say doing some of the colors dynamically based on the values that are being displayed. So if it's something bad, show it in red, compared to if it's like working, it's in normal parameters, it's, I don't know, another color.
Like how many colors, or do you give like a minimum and maximum, and you have a good color and a bad color and you automatically adjust on the percentage? Or do you envision like, I think please Linda.
So I was thinking more along the lines of allowing it to be configurable, like like entering in a where clause. If this exceeds this number, make it red. Yep. Not necessarily having like this is good or bad, but just making it configurable to where people could set different colors based on the values in there.
I think maybe what Radu asked, if it's only one rule, or if you can put multiple rules that change the colors, not just one rule. Right.
I mean, green until 100, between 100 and 500 yellow, above 500 red, and above, and after that.
Blinking. You
Got
like
it.
Or is it only like green, red, like a semaphore? That's but or are we planning to have like the default color, which is blue right now, and the warning color, which can be red? Let's say. I'm not.
I sure like going towards the configurable end, but
Okay. I like the sound of it.
Yeah. So anything else? Anyone in this group thinks could be a nice addition, a useful addition for for your, let's say, project, your experience with your common requirements, on what this dashboard should do to be more usable or useful or things like that.
so we see on the chat there's a question about export import of tiles. Which might tie into the copy that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
The idea is that and this is a question for Matthew. Do you see this like moving from a page to another, one of the tiles, or just in the same page, in the same dashboard component?
I was actually thinking about maybe all of the above. Your export import of components of your stack is really terrific, because you can, like, for instance, I just imported one that Dale had figured something out for me, which is awesome. So the idea, if you're going to make your make these things more sophisticated, then the idea of you're going to run into complications, and so the idea of being able to transport them easily inside and out, whether it's in your same instance or you're moving it from one instance to another, to me makes perfect sense. And you guys have done a really good job with it already. So
Yep.
That was just a thought.
Yep.
Yes, that absolutely makes sense. That is a big scale direction that we're going, getting to be able to support multiple instances of development versus a production. So being able to easily pick these up and move them instead of reconfiguring them, that makes sense. And then, yes, we did this internally. We had discussed my tokens as an option for a data source. So tokens and workflows, which would kind of cover a pretty broad range and reveal a lot of the power that's already there. Good. Yeah, so I mean, I hope we're just kind of talking generally about the idea of using this group as a sounding board for the directions that we're going. We'll try and give you a heads up about what we have in mind, so you can bring some thoughts to the table. But as we contemplate our directions, it makes sense for us to pay attention to the challenges that you're facing, and so this is a great way for us to get feedback and to figure out what to do first and what to do overall. So if you get this topic or others, again, that feedback form is there, and if you think of something that you need, then that'd be a great place to give feedback, or just bring it again the next time we get together.
Yeah. And I guess maybe, Dale, before we move on, so I understand not a lot of people are using this feature yet, but I'm guessing that everyone uses a charting library, maybe inside action form or just standalone. So I was wondering what charting libraries, if anyone has suggestions to use. Right now we use Chart.js here, but for example, we are looking at this one, the eCharts from Apache, which looks that has a lot more possibilities. So this one looks like it's very, very rich in terms of what you can do with it, but we haven't tried it in let's say, real projects yet to know for sure. But looks very advanced and has many things that you never think you'll need. So any other charting libraries that people would suggest we adopt as a standard?
Show them the cow.
Oh, yeah. We actually had a project that involved a how do you say, meat processing something.
Butchery.
A butchery, yes. So that actually we didn't know about this library, but I think they would have loved to have this control to pick the cut. So they have very crazy thing in here. Yeah. And of course, right now we are using Chart.js, which has been working good for us so far. So we don't feel the need to change it, but just exploring. Okay.
Yeah, as you say, Bogdan, the charges kind of fulfilled all the needs until now that we have. But if you are planning to, or we are planning to have like weird things, or reporting is gonna get more complex, I think the other library may get us there. But this one kind of has the everything that you need, and at least until now, it can get complex as well. And something that's really interesting, I'm not sure about the Apache eCharts, but for this one, I know for a fact that there are add-ons that are developed by the community that can be added to achieve different different behaviors. Yeah, so it's I don't know. I like Chart.js, but the eCharts from Apache look like they have a lot of potential.
Yep, agreed.
And they have a cow, so we cannot forget about that.
Okay. Well, if you have any suggestions, also feel free to reach out via email.
Great. While you have the floor, is there anything else you wanted to touch on today, Bogdan?
No, that's it. I think, I mean, I'll probably already know that we'll skip next week with the low-code cafe because of Thanksgiving. And not sure yet if we'll push the release as well because of next week being free in US, and the following week will be the same thing in Romania. So we might have to push the release a bit, but we'll announce it.
Very good.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. So let's see, moving on here. On the contributions thing, last week we talked about action forms, the autofocus, and the tab index properties, and there was a question about whether or not this is implemented through custom attributes and the attribute name, attribute value, whether or not those could be submitted as tokens. And they, after some little bit of research, I find that they don't expand tokens. So you can just provide attributes here, but not tokenize them. And then I took the liberty to expand Ben's demo. I see he's not on board today, but Ben had posted this, and I just added an example. So in this example, text 2 was set to the autofocus. So just as you come into the screen, it goes there. And then the text values are 100, 200, 300. So we get a little bit of an unusual or a non-standard tabbing behavior where we go from text 1 to text 2 to text 3. Because we told it to, it's jumping up and down. So you get a great deal of control. And that, of course, works with backtab as well. So just a small advancement in examples on contributions. And other than that, there was no new contributions since last week. Cool. So let's make sure I find my spot here on contributions. So The next, there was a question about, this is a submitted question about how to hook up Plant an App and GitHub and what can you do after it's connected, which we could talk about a little bit. I think probably make happen if we haven't. Let's see, in Campfire, just to kind of go over the parts and pieces, and I'm probably, let's see if I'm still logged in here. So you have to create a Git repository, which we'll take a look at here in a second. But in the general section, yes, this one is connected to a repository already. You do it through the connectors section. So you create a new connector and provide a, we can take a look at what's here, but you give it a name, and then there's different kinds of connectors that we already support. So this would be a GitHub would be what you would select and create it there. Let's see if I can bring up Git. So when you do one of these, you create a new repository. So before you start configuring Plant an App, you create a new repository, and then I think it's here in settings that you tell it that I think it's developer settings, personal access tokens. You can create a generate a new token. It gives you a token, and that's what you need when you're trying to connect. It gives Plant an App the ability, the rights to be able to write to your repo. So that's the general steps. Bogdan has done a video on that, which I'm sure we could find in post. I didn't have it in advance here, but it hasn't changed that much. You connect it, and then so you create a connector, go to general, and provide that connector and the repository URL. And as soon as you do that, it begins to copy all of your Plant an App implementation, the components of it out into the repo. So one thing that we learned this week because of a question that happened on the community, that this code is only compatible. This feature is a 64-bit implementation, and so for people that do their own version, their own implementation of App Builder outside of our hosting, if you were to select the 32-bit app that disables this feature throws an error. It's just not compatible with 32-bit apps. If that's an absolute requirement, then you can enter a support ticket. We might be able to help by providing the 32-bit DLLs, but in general, we're not going to provide them, though they're on their way out. So just realize that it's a 64-bit feature. And then what can you do with them is in the history section, this is in 1.17, this is a new feature that got added. The history section actually opens up the GitHub for you. Now, in my case, this kind of production one, I don't have access to the repo, so it's not opening up for me. I should probably open up one that does, but it would bring you directly to the Git repository that's active. So this, for example, is one for my test area for what I'm doing in Cafe, Low Code Cafe. And so you can go into the branches and see the folder within the various content. So for example, within the App Builder folder, there's your workflows, entities, connectors are defined. So at the very least, you can see what has been, what's changed over time, the current state of the app. If we go into workflows, for example, you can see each of the workflows that are there. You can see the name of it. If you were to click into it, you can see the content of it. And I think I did a video here. Well, I did a video here not that long ago on how you can recover, for example, a workflow, put it back together again and re-import it. That's a manual method. long term, we're going towards being able to go both directions to be able to restore, for example, from a repository. But that's not in place yet. We're doing a good job of putting content out there. So with the Git tools, you're able to see what the content is, see what changed over time, pull back an earlier version, or even recover a deleted one. So that's the kind of capabilities that are there. And that question was from Mark. Did that at least hit at a high level? And is there any specific area you'd like me to dig in deeper?
Thanks, Dale. That's a good introduction. Yeah, I haven't tried it yet. You guys have been talking about it. I'm very interested about backing it up to GitHub, backing up everything I can. So like I said, I haven't tried it. I have to explore more to know what I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, we're doing, I think, a great job of backing up to it. And this is I think, part of the same area where we're working at being able to restore a template. So I think the direction that we're going, correct me if I'm wrong, Bogdan, but for example, you can have your development environment and you've created a repo, and then you would be able to go to your production and pull it out of there, or spin up a new copy of your existing application. I am, this is my test application here that we're doing in Cafe. And so maybe this one's a little bit better one to show from. If I were to go into the configuration, so now this history button will work. It's going to bring up that same whatever the repo that's connected to it is. And then in my workflows, we can see that I have these 4, a send, 2 gets, and a contact phone number. And if we look in the repo, the production branch of this app builder workflows, you can see the send and 2 gets and contact phone number. If we were to make changes to it, it would update immediately. So just for fun, we'll make a cosmetic change here, but that should send it off to GitHub. I'll do it. And not yet. But we would see the updated content here. And then you'd be able to see different versions. So anyway, love live, right?
The history button is quite useful to use there. So if you use the history button, you can see all the changes, who did them, when. So especially when there's multiple people working, you can trace back when a change happened. And I think that's very useful, because this also does a diff, so shows you the exact same line that changed. So I think, I mean, if it's new, everything will be new, but if it's an update, it will show only what changed. And if you go to the root of the application daily and you do the same thing, if you go to the root, you see changes from all the application, not just from the workflows. So here you see all the changes in all areas of the application. So I think that's one of the biggest utility, to have this history of all the changes that ever happened, and be able to go back to it and find what changed, reverse something, things like that.
Track who did it, that kind of thing.
As long as not everyone uses the same super user account, because then it will not work anymore.
Great. Okay, so that's at least a start of that. Next, we had a question, and this was from Peter, who is on board today. So about model inheritance. So if you have one entity that has some properties and another that's a also has the same properties and maybe more detailed, then is inheritance a concept that we've built in? And since you asked it in the feedback form, I just thought I'd throw this in here. And my answer is no. We don't automatically do this. It would be easy enough to when you're creating your separate in your case, you're talking about group as the master and practice as the subordinate. And so when you're creating the practice,
Yes.
you copy from group, but I don't think that we automatically do anything in that area.
No, I was just wondering what would be a best practice in this area, because of course you have practice and I have subgroups and stuff like that. I can build a complete tree from group, and I was just wondering, should I put in all the properties and give a group a type, and one type will be practice and that has the properties, or should I simply hit every what you would say class of every entity is a separate thing? It was a bit of my my ideas from what do other people do in this in such situations? Just build 10 different entities, or do something else?
So are we starting from the idea that we need to have the ability to vary at the practice level? Do you need differences? I mean, because if a group, if those properties are guaranteed to be the same, then using the list or list of kind of relationships. So you have a master entity and a sub entity. The sub entity only has the additional properties. But if you need the ability for them to vary, then you would need to have them and copy them in.
If I may add, yeah, I think I generally prefer to duplicate them.
So you have two separate entities.
I separate them, and I understand where this question is coming from, but I'm not sure if we can consider the entities like objects in a programming language.
Yes, there does it come from, of course.
And it I don't know. I usually prefer to duplicate them because the requirements sometimes change, and I don't want to be stuck in a model of inheritance.
Okay.
But if you have a person and that person can be a student or a teacher, which is like the basic example of object inheritance, it makes sense at that point. But now I don't know. I usually prefer to duplicate them because it's the idea is that I'm not even sure how. If I look at the problem from a database standpoint,
yes.
I kind of like to duplicate the columns. If I look it from a programming language standpoint, I would like to have them extended. So I don't know where to put my my finger on this problem, but I would rather go with the duplicating the columns, just because it's I don't know, it's I think it depends. To be honest, I used at some point this inheritance ability of having different doctors with different specialties, and the specialties in itself had different columns. So everyone was a doctor, but everyone from the doctor had different properties. But I would rather duplicate them. But again, if we are only talking about a group and then a practice, and we are only talking about two entities, mainly, I will duplicate them. If we are talking about 100 entities that needs to create it, I will rather fall to the inheritance option to not not maintain that much. It's a decision that you make. It's from situation to situation, but I am not sure. In this one, I would rather duplicate. If there were the practice, then there are group and practices and the entity C, D, E, and so on. Maybe it made sense to have it stored.
Yeah.
And it's optimal. At that point, it starts to be optimal from a space, database space, and database optimization perspective.
Yeah, I don't care about database spaces. That's a thing of the past, I would say.
I think
but
index.
It's management of your code, of course. So if I can have a big entity with hundreds of properties, then you're also lost. You shouldn't do that either. So it's I was just wondering about it when I was making a solution for a client. So that's
it's no wrong. It's like a wrong answer to either go both ways. But it's how you feel like more comfortable. Let's say maybe that's the question.
Yeah. Okay. There's no good answer. Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, thanks for submitting in advance. We had one last feedback question that was about SMS best practices, capabilities, demo recommendations. And so I think and Rado, I'm so glad you're on the call today, because I think you can probably help with this one too. But with SMS, Twilio is our preferred provider internally at this point, right?
Yeah,
yes.
Twilio is easy.
Yeah, it's the easiest one.
And so the actions that we have are built in, support it. So you get a Twilio account, you can start sending SMS straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get up and running in less than an hour, and you get messages and Twilio account and the keys, and it's a piece of cake, would we say.
So there's a separate question going on the chat. Jerry mentioned that he's working with push notifications add-on. So this would be, I think, specifically for is it for an app, or is it push notifications to a device? I'm not, Jerry, are you available to talk about that? No sound yet. Okay.
Dale, if I may add to the SMS and Plantain App option of for the Twilio, I see there are the best practices. So the idea is that we mainly have two actions. One, not two actions, but basically it's one action for sending SMSs. While Twilio also provides the option to give you feedback, basically, if that SMS was sent or not. So if there's a system error inside Twilio, there's this option to basically, if the response comes back with an error, you can retry to assure the fact that SMS got to the client. So one of the best practices, I think they're called something like webhooks or callback webhooks. The idea is that in Twilio you can set up a URL where they can push information about the SMSs that you send, just to confirm the fact that they were actually sent. Because if they fail, it's your job to retry. For some reason, I think they try a few times, but at some point it's your job to retry sending the SMS. So that's one of the practices. As a recommendation, check out the compatibility list for Twilio, because they have in some situation through the webhooks the idea is that you can have two-way SMSs. So someone can send SMSs to a unique number, and you can basically get that SMS in your system. Sometimes not applying to US, but in some countries that may not work, the two-way SMS. For example, here in Romania, it doesn't work, the two-way SMS. It works, but not as it should, basically. So that's like a recommendation. Check it out before choosing this as an option. Check out the compatibility grid that they have at the moment. They're adding providers telecom providers for all over the world. But at some point, if you want to have two-way SMSs, they may not provide in different areas of the world. That's my answer. Sorry. Thank you.
Well, can I have a follow-on question? Thank you very
Please.
much for that.
Please.
So if you get the feedback, the two-way SMS, can you then, and I've not used it, so I don't know, but can you then essentially from the your site respond to that SMS? Is that what you're implying?
Yes, you can do that. You can have basically a bot communication. Someone, hey, do you want to do something? Please reply with yes, or please reply with no. You can send those kind. The idea is that your unique identifier is the phone number.
Okay.
So whenever you get an SMS, you get the phone number that you got the who sent the SMS, so you can identify what did I ask this user last time, basically. And depending on his answer, you can start the workflow on deciding what to reply to him.
Okay.
Please, please confirm that you are coming to your dentist appointment tomorrow. Please reply with yes or no. And if he replies yes, you can send it back. Thank you. If he replies with no, do you want to reschedule? Do you want to call us? And and give him the options. Please reply with yes, no, call me, whatever. Yep. The idea is that, and maybe this is another recommendation. The idea is that in some situation you don't have only one flow. So this is basically confirmation of an appointment, but also maybe you want to have a flow of adding appointments into the system. Basically, send an SMS with the date that you want to have an appointment with Dr. X, whatever. That needs to be a different phone number in Twilio. Each flow needs to be a different phone number in Twilio, because the combination of Twilio phone number and the sender is going to give you exactly what that sender is responding to. I hope it makes sense. So you have phone that ends with 001 and 002. Everyone that's answering on 001 wants to confirm an appointment. Everyone that's answering on 002 wants to make an appointment. So you decide, the phone number decides the flow. And then because you don't have any user identifier at that, but only the phone numbers.
Right.
So yes, you can do this kind of flows, but for each individual flow, use a different phone number, because otherwise you'll need complex responses. Please respond with yes, I want to confirm the appointment, so you can identify which is the flow that it's applying, because a user can have two flows at the same time, and the workflow can get confused. So that's like the recommendation from my side.
That's awesome. Thank you. So those phone numbers you're referring to, obviously you've got the user phone number. That doesn't change. Is this essentially a virtual phone number inside of Twilio?
Exactly.
001 is workflow 1, 002 is workflow 2, so on?
I think you can basically rent phone numbers from Twilio. I'm not sure if they're real or virtual, but the idea is that I think you can buy them in different areas in different states of US or in different countries of the world. And I'm not sure. I think you can choose the numbers. You can have like a 08000. Basically, there are different prices from different numbers. You can try to choose your own number, but basically you are renting, depending on the number that you are trying to acquire from them, you are paying a different rent. So those are numbers that you are basically renting from them. Right. And they put all the API interface, and they do their magic over those numbers.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
So is it considered bad practice to send a link through one of those messages to just open up something on your website to have somebody confirm or follow through a process?
No, that's not a bad practice at all.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I do for a client. I sent him an SMS with a link with a GUID in it, so he doesn't have to log in until gets his own information.
Yeah, that's along the lines of what I was thinking of as well.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. Thank you.
So you're still seeing my screen, right?
Yes.
So we've got, this is the buy a number thing. So just to provide context, depending on where you're from, it seems like a dollar a month, maybe $3 a month, $2 a month, depending on the capabilities that you click in and the choices that you make. So kind of give you a clue there anyway. So great. We had another one that came in here on the chat a minute ago from Mark about anyone doing a high number of concurrent users, hundreds, thousands, how's it going? So I assume this is just about a general performance question on Plant and App. Mark, do you want to provide any context against that?
Well, I guess I'm thinking big. I'm hoping lots and lots of people are using my stuff. Wanted to know if it can handle it.
Mark, are you referring to your server environment? Are you referring to scaling the app itself, or kind of all of the above?
I would say all of the above. You know, I'm just venturing into the thought of high numbers, so there's a lot to know and learn.
Well, you know, one of my thoughts on the AWS server configuration that's, you know, part of the Plant and App server offering is I'd like to know along the same lines, really, what does that mean in terms of practical use? And I know that's kind of a how high is up type question, but is there any useful metrics around that? And along, of course, with Mark's general question about the, you know, general scalability.
We'll have to assume if it's quieted, then the group doesn't have experience with the high numbers yet, and that's fine. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
The idea is that I never hit I think I never hit a limit with any implementation that I did until now. I think the only situation I know that it basically, the server got laggy and basically stopped working, and it was giving it was basically not responding. It was this client that was having basically a deadline of submissions of some kind of, it doesn't matter, but the idea is that a big number of people were trying to access the application at the same time, and it got down, but not because the web server was not handling. All the requests were expiring because the database was not able to respond at that point that fast. So in terms of how big you can go, it depends on what are you actually providing to the client. That's the trick. If you are searching through millions of records to give someone information, then the database is your bottleneck. If you can have millions or anyway thousands of users at the same time, but if they don't need to access the database that much, maybe at that point, if you only have displaying them static information, then you are good to go. So to answer this one, it's really depending on what you are basically working with. A SQL query may make different from 100 to 1,000 people if it's written correctly. It's more about how optimized you are thinking. Are you using caching to all the tokens, to workflows, to the APIs? Are you implementing that? Can you use the tokens? Did you bother to do that? So there are a lot of things that influence the number. And just to give like an end of my story, with that client, we went to a distributed system with multiple database servers at that point to handle the flow, and that was a lesson learned. So each time they had this deadline, because it happens twice a year, they basically scale the database machine from 1 to 4 or something like this, and everything goes smooth. So again, it's about waves. Are you planning to have 100 or 1,000 people concurrent at every time? Then again, it's usually, and I'm gonna be honest here. Usually, when it starts to get laggy, we start to see what's making it laggy. If everything is optimized and we cannot get any further with the basically hardware that we have, then we have to scale the hardware. But it's again, it's a
I
question.
think that provides a good answer. You know, I admit I was listening to a podcast recently. There was an app developer there. They said, yeah, we did our proof of concept with a no code situation. And then when we decided to go forward, we built it the right way. And so that it could handle the stress of so many multiple concurrent users. And that just impressed me. I thought, well, what do you mean? Why did you switch from the platform that you started with? And I was wondering about if there was any inherent thing with Plant an App that says, well, you know, it really works good up until you hit 20 million or whatever the number is, and then really you need something, I don't know, different. So that's pretty much the whole question there. It sounds like if you start tuning it correctly, look at the processes, make sure you're doing it efficiently, and then throw some more resources at it, then you can keep building. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think it sounds right.
Rada, this might be putting you on the spot just a little bit, but you see more than I see it on the support side. You're implementing. So just thinking about our customers, can you think of some that have upper number of users? Can you put any number to it for us?
I don't know. It's I know I know that I think the Biophysical Society, that's the example that I was giving. The Biophysical Society had this issue at some point. I think Veil Health starts to have a big number of users, but for them, they kind of went with let's add hardware to not be in a spot we cannot provide service. They basically had the money, so they didn't care. Let's, 8 cores, 16 cores, hundreds of gig of RAMs, even, but I don't have actual numbers. I
didn't mean to put you on the spot, and I certainly don't want to get into individual customers. I was just kind of wondering if you could provide any context for it. I think your original answer makes a lot of sense. I have seen customers design very resource intensive processes. When you go to a page, it's loading a stored procedure that does a ton of work, and it takes 30 seconds to chunk through it. And those kinds of resource intensive things, if you try and scale it up, you're going to be in problems. But there's also the question, well, did you do it well? If the grid loads in the background, if it's on a tab and it doesn't really need to display until somebody clicks into that tab, and yet it's loading every time you go to the page for everybody, your design can drastically affect. So how much do you really need, and then are you designing it well?
Usually the IT department only knows how many people are accessing until after it got broken. Only marketing cares about how many people are when it's working. Mm-hmm. So I don't have those numbers still, but again, the issue with biophysics happened years ago, 5 years ago, and recently we didn't have any performance issue. So again, no one tells me the numbers of users, so I don't have any idea.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So, Jerry, can you try again?
Yes, Dale. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Awesome. The conversation that we've been having for the last 5 minutes at least, I have huge knowledge of, and unfortunately I was muted out and couldn't figure out how to get it turned on, and got that worked out. I have many clients, more than one, with well into the hundreds of thousands of users. And every one of my clients are exclusive DNM Sharp style websites. And so I can't say, Mark, that I've tested the Planta app per se to that level, but I'm in the midst of that now, of doing a lot of these conversions. But I can go on record and tell you, as a DBMS for SQL Server, that's where you really have to pay attention. And as Dale was kind of alluding to, you bite off small bites at a time and you will get much better performances, but sometimes you can't. I have SQL scripts that take 5 and 10 minutes to run. Now, it's not to load a page, that's backroom data processing. And there's methods for doing that and not. But what I have learned most over time is it's at the SQL level that you're going to get your performance. And unfortunately, and I'm sure many of you will attest to, some of these other module developers that develop whatever kind of module you might want, they may be genius at whatever they do, but they may really fail you at their SQL backend and how their data is stored and manipulated. And so that's been my frustration of trying not to use any third-party modules other than DNN Sharp modules where possible, because I have found just hideous SQL Server backgrounds. And so, you know, when you're dealing with 100, 200,000, 300,000 users, you just have to kind of know what module you're going to install. Now, if you're the creator and you're writing it and it's your baby, then don't ever be shy to reach out to somebody in the SQL world that kind of knows what's going on, because that's where it makes the difference on that particular topic. You know, Dale, we can have an entire show on this one topic, so I'll just shut up about that right now.
No, you know, I think that's a really good point, and I wanted to just kind of connect the dots. You mentioned that you're using the DNN Sharp tools, and just our structure is the Plantain app is the individual DNN Sharp tools plus content, plus the ability to kind of automatically configure those, which is to say, Plantain app is going to get the equivalent performance that you're seeing with the individual DNN Sharp tools. I think it directly translates that there's not going to be a difference in there. I'd love to have you come back and comment on that at a later time when you've fully converted. Validate that I'm telling you the honest truth, but I think you're going to see.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, I think
I have no doubt.
Insane. So,
oh, thank you, Jerry. That's good responses. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, Mark. And Dale, as far as push notifications go, I know we're out of time.
Well, anyone can drop off if they need to. It's not law that we have to stick to an hour. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, if you're interested in push notifications, I was tasked with a job 6 months ago of interfacing one of these websites, by the way, that has hundreds of thousands of users, to a mobile app that's being written by a third-party mobile app developer. And I have written hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, it seems like, of APIs to communicate with the mobile app. And most recently, in the last 30 days, I was tasked to do something called push notifications. Now, honestly, guys, I'm dumber than a rock at push notifications until now. I never really quite understood what it meant when my phone beeped and I got a notification. It just was like magic. Well, now I understand how it works and the complexities of it. And so I was tasked to have, when something triggers in my data system, I need to send a notification to one of these mobile app users. And and again, I've got like 30, 40,000 mobile app users. And so with that said, I had to start searching, who am I going to interface with? How am I going to interface? And I came across Firebase. If you haven't heard of Firebase, look at Firebase. It's a way to do push notifications. To me, it was horribly complicated. I couldn't quite figure out how to get the bear token down. Still haven't been able to just to deal with it. But I asked Dale one day for some support on this, to give me a programmer over at Plantain app that knows more about this than me. And I don't know how it came about, Dale, but somehow, some way, we discovered that we've actually written some actions and some add-ons to do Firebase integration. And so I just rapidly raised my hand to say, I want to volunteer to beta test this stuff and make it work and see what's happening. Once Dale got me through the install process and the communications, life was good. And I'm now communicating with him and I'm pushing notifications, and it seems whatever version we're on, although I'm not sure that we've technically released it, Dale, or even mentioned it to anybody, but I don't know if it's a part of 1.17, but thank you for allowing me to jump in and use it. because it actually works really good as it is now, and I'm sure we can improve upon it. But if you're going to start pushing notifications to a mobile app, then I think PlantinApp's already got a tool sitting there ready to go. If you're interfacing with Firebase and another company called Wishpush, which I have zero experience with, so I'm not sure about that. But I'm in deep on this right now, and I can keep you updated as to my successes and failures with this product and seeing how it works. But it's really cool because on some particular user reaches a milestone, I just real quickly shoot a push to his cell phone and goes beep, and he gets on his cell phone and goes, "Oh look, I made Ruby Diamond qualifier today," or whatever I may want to do. Credit card declines on a renewal process. Boop, they get a little message saying, "Hey, your credit card declined," whatever. And I'm going one step further, Dale. I'm recording all my pushes in my own SQL backend. So, and then I wrote the APIs to the mobile app so they can go pull a listing of these push notifications at any time without having to go into the Firebase integration and pull data from there. I already have the data, so I keep Firebase out of the loop as much as possible. I basically use them for a mechanism of just making the phone beep and popping a notice up on their screen. But so that's where I'm at. I see on the screen, I recognize that immediately. And if you are about to start this for the first time, I will just tell you that there's a difference between iOS and Android when it comes to pushing, but the Firebase add-on from PlantinApp will allow you to push your basic information, such as just your message and your heading in your message. I think they call it a title and a body, without it being phone specific. And that makes life super easy. But I ran into the problem yesterday, Dale, that the bell or the chirp or whatever on iPhones was not going off. It was on the Android devices, but on the iPhone, it was not chirping. They were getting the message, but it wasn't chirping. So I had to go into that second line from the bottom, iOS specific notification JSON, and I punched in a little bit of JSON that my app programmer knew to do. He gave me the JSON code, said, "Here, try this." We punched it in, and next thing you know, I'm making the iPhones chirp when the notification comes in, but it doesn't automatically chirp the iPhone without doing that. So that might be an improvement that we could do inside the add-on maybe someday, but I've worked around that. But I'll hush up there. That's about as
that's
far
great.
as I take it. But that's, I mean, I'm trying to beta test this thing like mad in the real world, and we're hoping to go live in production and in just a few short weeks. And guys, my life is, I don't get to go live with 1 or 2 users. I'm going live with 30,000 app users that I need to be doing multiple pushes to all the time. So my back's against the wall. Thank you again, Dale.
That's good experience, Jerry. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. So it is nice that just the package was there. We installed it as an extension, and it's good to go. I'm exploring a little bit here, and this is the Firebase iOS message. I see there's a message sound parameter that you can point to a sound file. So there may be options in that, but you know, keep notes about wherever you go, Jerry, because I think we probably love to have you come back and kind of give us the what happened after you got your 30,000 users.
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to. Thank you for allowing me to.
You know, guys, I looked into that too. I did some discovery process, and I found it to be extremely confusing to figure out how to get it done and which company to go through and what their requirements were and when it works and when it doesn't really work. And so finding out that there's a add-in and that you guys have worked out the kinks, that is just awesome to me.
Mark, I can just tell you straight up, the Firebase integration is not a simple one. And if you try to do it without the PlantinApp add-on, your first challenge is getting the bear token to even start up the communication with their API process. And I'm certain that there are many better programmers than me on this show today that could school me quickly. But getting the bearer token was the challenge that I just could not get. The Node.js didn't work. The documentation didn't line up with what they were saying. And, you know, some of these integrations just don't go the way the book describes it. And so I got frustrated. Well, it turns out that through Google and the two-step process and the getting the bearer token and this, whoever wrote this module over at Planta App did all the grunt work for us. They figured that out for us. And with some simple additions into the web config for your security key, man, it makes it super easy. And if we could talk the programmer, whoever he is, Dale, tell him thank you, but whoever he or she is, there's some actions we could add to that Firebase that would be amazing. One of them would be, the first thing would be to just give me the bearer token so I can then just use their APIs for anything that maybe we don't have an action for. But again, Dale, whoever started this process knows what they're doing. They understand it and they feel my pain and have been there before I have. So Mark, if you can, I would just try and use that add-on and use Firebase where possible.
Why would I do anything else? That sounds
Exactly.
awful. Yeah.
I made a comment to Dale yesterday. I no longer validate myself by how good of a programmer I am. I validate myself by how fast can I get away from this computer and go do something else, you know?
It's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jerry.
So I will see if I can find out who is responsible for that code now and extend an invitation. We'd love to see more developers show up at low code Campfire. So with that,
that would be
that could be dangerous, huh?
Yes, but amazing at the same time.
All right. With that, we'll call a stop to it. We're not meeting next week, but we will be back here in 2 weeks. You guys have a happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you then. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good holiday, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Everyone. Bye.